Hi, welcome to the Movie Blog. My name's John Campia, and this is my quick review of the new sequel, Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. Now, I gotta say right up front, just so you know the context of this, I thought the original Hellboy movie was one of the most underrated, not the best comic book movie of all time, but I think one of the most underrated comic book movies of all time. You don't hear a lot of people still today talking about the original Hellboy, and I thought it was done really well. When you really look at the comic book character, you have a hard time imagining how you could bring that story and that character to the screen in a way that would be palatable to the general audience. But man, Mike Mignola and Guillermo del Toro just found a way to do it, and I really enjoyed it. So clearly, I had a lot of anticipation going into Hellboy 2. Did it live up to my full expectations? Not quite. But was it worth the wait? Yes, it was. This is a good movie. It's a solid movie. On the plus side, Guillermo del Toro is just becoming a master at bringing the fantastic into the real world. He does, whether you look at Pan's Labyrinth, the first Hellboy, or this one, del Toro has this ability to create a world on the screen that infuses both the real world and the world of the fantastic in such a way that becomes compelling and interesting without coming across as overly cheesy. Also, del Toro has a masterful eye at designing and creating these worlds and these creatures. These creatures who, much like in Pan's Labyrinth, you can tell they're designed by the same guy, but these creatures that don't come from the same cookie-cutter standard creature design that you kind of see in every other movie. His creatures are very unique, breathtaking to look at. Also, as in any good comic book movie, this movie has a great villain. He's not an all-time great. He's not Lex Luthor. He's not, Magneto. But Prince Naru Nuara, I should say, is a really solid screen villain. He's menacing. He's physically, he's got some great martial arts he uses in the film, great swordsmanship, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that makes him really good is I really like good bad guys when they're bad guys who think they're good, when they're bad guys who have a sense of honor about them and think they're doing the right thing. They think they are doing the correct thing. Those bad guys are especially terrifying to me. And Prince Nuara is, if I'm pronouncing that right, is definitely one of those, and I enjoyed that aspect of the film, his behavior. And Ron Perlman, once again, as Hellboy, is terrific. There's some really good laughs in the film. But on the downside of Hellboy, while there are some good laughs in the film, it doesn't nearly measure up to the amount of laughs that I found and a lot of the humor that was in the first one. So in that sense, Hellboy 2 kind of took a downward turn in the regards of humor. I didn't find it to be as funny as the first one was. And when you got characters like Hellboy and like Abe and those types of guys who are really well positioned to bring good humor, I think you got to take advantage of that a little bit more. One of the other weaknesses of the film is something that I thought would be a strength. Some of you may not know that in the first Hellboy movie, David Hyde Pierce, the guy from Frasier, did the voice of Abe. But the body acting, the actual physical guy you saw in the costume, was an actor by the name of Doug Jones. Now, Doug Jones was also the Faun in Pan's Labyrinth, and I don't think he did the voice in that. He was also the Silver Surfer in the last Fantastic Four movie, but he didn't do the voice of that either. So here you got poor Doug Jones, and I was kind of excited to hear that Doug Jones in this Hellboy movie was actually going to get to not only be the body, but he was going to get to be the voice. And I was really excited about that because I thought it would bring an even better performance when it's actually the same actor and the same voice. But I got to say, I was let down. I didn't think Doug Jones's voice worked nearly as well as David Hyde Pierce. And you know what? And I thought about, is it just because I got used to hearing David Hyde Pierce and I was expecting to hear David Hyde Pierce? And I don't think that's the case. I think David Hyde Pierce has brought a lot more character to Abe, and Doug Jones just couldn't bring that same level. Maybe if it was Doug Jones in the first film too, I wouldn't have noticed the downdrop, but it not being David Hyde Pierce really stood out to me. And Abe has an increased role in Hellboy 2 than he does in the first one, and so that weakness stood out to be a little bit more. Also, I should say this. I'm a fan of Selma Blair. I think she's a very good actress and not given enough credit for the performances that she often turns in. But I gotta say, in Hellboy 2, I felt like she was bored. I honestly did. In sports terminology, it feels like she just mailed in her effort. It didn't feel to me like she even cared about the movie very much. It's not that she sucked, because she's very, very talented. It's just that it didn't really feel like she brought her A game or even tried to, and that was noticeable to me. So I didn't like the Liz character nearly as much in this film. Still, overall, Hellboy is a visually beautiful, great story of the fantastic merging with the real world. The mythology behind the film, the whole story behind the Golden Army was terrific. Ron Perlman, once again, is great. Yeah, there are some downsides. The humor isn't quite as good. I really miss David Hyde Pierce's voice. I didn't think Selma Blair brought it. Still, overall, I even liked Hellboy 2 just a little bit more than I liked the original Hellboy. And so overall, I give Hellboy 2 The Golden Army a 7.5 out of 10. For the Movie Blog, I'm John Campea.